A struggling girl shielded a stranger from the storm. Next morning, his security team came looking for her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. On a bitter cold night, as the wind howled through the streets, Emily huddled under the narrow shelter of a bus stop, trying to protect herself from the pouring rain. Her clothes, worn and threadbare, clung to her cold skin, the icy chill creeping in from every direction. She wasn't used to being out in the cold, but tonight was different. She had just lost her job, and her last paycheck had gone toward the rent. Her stomach growled in protest, reminding her that there was no money left for food. As the bus lights approached, she shivered, clutching her thin jacket around her. The night felt endless, and her future uncertain. Just as she was about to step out into the rain again to head home, a man appeared at the shelter. His appearance was a sharp contrast to hers. Tall, well-dressed, his dark coat clung to his broad shoulders, his face set in an expression of calm despite the storm. He glanced at her, his eyes momentarily meeting hers, and then he looked down at his soaked jacket. She could see the frustration on his face. As he moved closer, he hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Excuse me." His voice was low, almost lost in the wind. "I've had my wallet stolen, and I really need $10 to get home. Can you help me?" Emily glanced at him, her first instinct telling her to turn away. She barely had enough for herself, but something in his eyes made her pause. There was no desperation in his voice, no pleading, just a quiet sincerity that made her feel, for the first time in a long while, like she wasn't invisible. She took a breath, her fingers fumbling for her last $10 bill. She had nothing else. She hesitated, weighing the decision in her mind, but his eyes, calm and trusting, made her make up her mind. "I can't afford much," she said, her voice barely audible over the wind. "But here, take it." She handed him the $10, watching as he took it with a quiet thanks. He looked at her again, nodding in appreciation, then turned and walked into the rain. Emily stood there, unsure of what had just happened. She watched him disappear into the night, feeling a strange sense of peace settle over her. It wasn't much, but for a moment, she had done something right. She had helped someone when it seemed like there was no reason to. The storm still raged outside, but for the first time, Emily felt a small spark of hope. She turned and walked away, heading back to her small, empty apartment, wondering what tomorrow might bring. Little did she know, the next morning would bring something she could never have expected. As the early sunlight filtered through her window, she was startled by a knock at her door. When she opened it, she was met by a group of stern-faced security personnel, all dressed in dark suits. "Are you Emily?" one of them asked. She nodded, confusion written across her face. "We need you to come with us," he said. "Mr. Bennett would like to meet with you." Mr. Bennett? Who was he? And why would he want to meet her? The security team didn't offer an explanation, only ushered her out into a black limousine parked outside. Emily felt a wave of unease wash over her. This was all so strange. She had no idea what was happening or why. Was this some kind of mistake? As the car drove through the city, she tried to piece together what had occurred the night before. She had simply helped a man in need. That was all. But something was off. She couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a random encounter. And as the limousine pulled up to a sleek, glass-covered building, Emily's heart started to race. She had no idea what awaited her, but she knew her life was about to change forever. The limousine came to a stop in front of a tall glass building that gleamed in the early morning light. The car's tinted windows shielded Emily from the outside world, but as she stepped out, the vastness of the skyscraper left her breathless. She had no idea why she was here or what to expect. The events of the night before felt surreal, like she was caught in a dream she couldn't wake up from. The security guards escorted her through the sleek lobby, and her footsteps echoed off the marble floors. Emily's heart raced. What had she gotten herself into? Who was Mr. Bennett, and why had he called for her? She had only helped a man on a cold night. Why was she here now? She couldn't shake the feeling that she was out of her depth. The lobby was pristine, decorated with modern art and polished surfaces that gleamed under the overhead lights. Every person around her seemed confident, sure of themselves. Everything Emily was not. She felt out of place in her worn coat and boots, a stark contrast to the high-end surroundings. As they reached an elevator, one of the guards pressed the button for the top floor. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Emily stepped inside, her mind swirling with questions. She couldn't help but wonder if this was some kind of mistake. Maybe this was all just a misunderstanding, a twist of fate that had landed her here. The doors closed, and the elevator ascended rapidly, the view of the city expanding as they rose higher. Her palms were sweaty as she clasped them together tightly, trying to calm her nerves. When the elevator finally came to a stop, the doors opened to reveal a spacious, minimalist office. The walls were decorated with abstract art, and the large windows provided a stunning view of the city below. Sitting at a sleek desk by the window was a man in a perfectly tailored suit, his back turned toward her as he looked out over the skyline. He was tall, with dark hair that was neatly styled, and his presence commanded attention. As the security guards stepped aside, Emily hesitated in the doorway, unsure of what to do next. The man turned around slowly, his gaze locking with hers. His eyes were a piercing shade of blue, and despite the calm exterior, there was an intensity behind his gaze that sent a shiver down her spine. "Miss Emily, I presume," he said, his voice smooth and calm, with just a hint of curiosity. Emily nodded, still trying to gather her thoughts. "I'm Mr. Bennett," he continued, standing up from his desk. "Thank you for coming." Emily remained silent, unsure of what to say. She had so many questions, but they seemed to stick in her throat. Mr. Bennett walked over to a small seating area, motioning for her to sit. "Please, have a seat." As Emily took a seat across from him, she couldn't help but notice the way he carried himself. There was an air of power and control about him, a quiet confidence that radiated from every gesture. But there was also something about him that felt lonely. She couldn't put her finger on it, but there was an emptiness in his eyes that made her wonder. "I'm sure you're wondering why you're here," he said, sitting down across from her. "To be honest, I don't really know myself," Emily replied, her voice shaky. Mr. Bennett smiled, a faint, almost amused smile. "It's understandable," he said. "You see, I was in a bit of a predicament last night, and you made all the difference." He leaned forward slightly, his eyes locked on hers. "You didn't know it, but you helped me in ways you can't imagine. I'm not sure why you did it, but I know one thing. You are a kind person." Emily shifted in her seat, her hands nervously clasped in her lap. She had no idea where this conversation was going, but something told her that whatever was happening here, it wasn't a coincidence. "I've been following you since last night," he continued, his voice calm but serious. "I needed to know more about you." He paused for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. "You see, I'm not just any businessman. I'm the CEO of Carter Enterprises. And after our brief encounter, I knew I had to offer you something that could change your life." Emily's breath caught in her throat. Carter Enterprises? The name rang a bell, but she hadn't connected it to the man in front of her until now. She felt the weight of the moment crash down on her. She wasn't sure if she should be excited or terrified. This was all too much, too fast. "I know you're struggling, Emily," he said, his tone softening. "And I want to help. I'm offering you a position within my company. You'll have a chance to start fresh, a real opportunity to change your circumstances." Emily's heart pounded in her chest. This was the moment she had been waiting for her entire life. But at the same time, a part of her felt conflicted. Was this really the chance she had dreamed of, or was it something more complicated? "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Mr. Bennett smiled again, a genuine smile this time. "You don't have to say anything right now. Just think about it. But I believe you have the potential to do great things. And I think you belong in a place like this." He stood up and walked over to the window, gazing out at the city below. "You've already made a difference in my life, Emily. Now let me help you make a difference in yours." Emily sat there for a moment, processing his words. Her mind was racing. This could be the break she needed. But could she trust him? Was this really the start of a new chapter, or was it just another trap waiting to ensnare her? She didn't know the answers yet, but something told her that whatever came next would be a turning point in her life. Emily sat in the sleek office for what seemed like an eternity, the weight of Mr. Bennet's words still echoing in her mind. The proposal he had offered was overwhelming. She had always dreamed of a fresh start, but never in her wildest imagination did she think it would come in the form of a billionaire CEO asking her to work for his company. She had come into this meeting with nothing but the clothes on her back, struggling to survive. And now, here she was, being offered a life-altering opportunity. But it wasn't that simple, was it? Could she trust him? The uncertainty gnawed at her. Emily took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing thoughts. What do I have to lose? She whispered under her breath. She wasn't going to let fear control her life anymore. After a long moment of silence, Emily finally looked up at Mr. Bennet, who was still standing by the window, his gaze fixed on the sprawling cityscape below. I'll accept, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling inside her. Mr. Bennet turned around, a hint of approval in his eyes. I knew you would, he replied with a smile. But remember, this is just the beginning. You're not here just because of your kindness. You have something more. Something that I believe can change this company, and maybe even the world. The confidence in his words was both reassuring and daunting. Emily was still trying to process everything. But one thing was clear. She was no longer that struggling girl in a cold apartment, unsure of where her next meal would come from. She was stepping into a new world, one filled with opportunities, but also filled with challenges she had yet to face. As the days went by, Emily began her new life at Carter Enterprises. The transition was overwhelming, but exciting. The building's polished walls and high-tech equipment were worlds away from the small diner where she had spent the last few years of her life. Her new office was sleek, modern, with glass walls offering a stunning view of the city. But despite the beauty and luxury around her, Emily felt a strange sense of displacement. She wasn't sure if she belonged here, in this world of power and wealth. The first few days were a whirlwind of introductions, meetings, and learning the ropes. She was assigned a mentor, a young woman named Claire, who had been working at Carter Enterprises for several years. Claire was kind and helpful, but she also had a certain air of confidence that Emily couldn't help but admire. Don't worry, Claire said one morning as they sat down for coffee. It's normal to feel out of place at first, but you've got this. Mr. Bennet saw something in you, and that's not something he does for just anyone. Emily nodded, trying to take in the advice. It wasn't easy. Every time she walked into a room full of confident executives and power players, she couldn't help but feel like an imposter. But she couldn't afford to let that hold her back. If she wanted to prove herself, she had to push past her insecurities. Over the next few weeks, Emily began to gain confidence in her new role. She worked tirelessly, taking on every project that came her way with enthusiasm and determination. Slowly but surely, she started making a name for herself in the company. Her ideas were fresh, her work ethic was unmatched, and she wasn't afraid to speak up during meetings. She was beginning to see the potential Mr. Bennet had seen in her. But it wasn't just her career that was changing. Something else was happening too. She found herself thinking about Mr. Bennet more than she cared to admit. There was a kindness to him that she hadn't expected, a quiet understanding that made her feel seen in a way she never had before. He wasn't just the cold, distant CEO she had imagined. He was someone who cared, someone who understood the struggles she had faced. And as the weeks turned into months, Emily realized that she was beginning to see him in a different light. But she couldn't let herself get distracted. She had a job to do, a future to build. Still, every time their paths crossed, she couldn't help but wonder if there was more to their connection than just business. One afternoon, as Emily was leaving the office, she received a call from Mr. Bennet. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of urgency in it. Emily, I need to speak with you. It's important, he said. She agreed to meet him at his office right away. As she arrived, she was greeted by the same security team that had brought her to the building months ago. They ushered her inside, where Mr. Bennet was waiting. His expression was serious, his usual calm demeanor replaced by something more intense. There's something I need to tell you, he began, his voice low. Emily's heart skipped a beat. What is it? She asked, suddenly nervous. Mr. Bennet stood up, walking over to the window as he spoke. There's a reason I hired you. A bigger reason than just your potential. I've been watching you, Emily, watching your progress. And I believe you're the key to something much larger than either of us could have imagined. Emily frowned, confused. What do you mean? Mr. Bennet turned to face her, his eyes steady. I need you to trust me. I've been working on a project, one that could change everything. But I can't do it alone. I need someone who understands the value of hard work, the importance of staying grounded. Someone who isn't afraid to take risks. Emily's mind was racing. She had no idea what he was talking about. But one thing was clear. She was in deeper than she had ever imagined. This wasn't just a job anymore. This was about to become something much more. As Emily sat across from Mr. Bennett in his office, the weight of his words sank in. She had always believed that hard work would eventually pay off, but this was different. This wasn't just about a promotion or a new job. This was about something much larger, something that could change her life in ways she hadn't even imagined. Mr. Bennett's gaze never wavered as he continued. I'm asking you to trust me, Emily. This project is bigger than both of us, and I believe you have what it takes to be a part of it. Emily swallowed hard, trying to process what he was saying. What project? What was so important that he needed her help? She had only been working at Carter Enterprises for a few months, yet here she was, being pulled into something that could impact the future of the company. She didn't even fully understand what it was yet. I don't know if I'm the right person for this, Emily said, her voice shaky. I'm still learning the ropes here. There are so many things I don't know. Mr. Bennett leaned forward slightly, his eyes softening. That's exactly why I need you. You see things differently. You're not jaded by the corporate world like the others here. You have an understanding of the real world, of what people truly need. That's why I believe you're the key to making this work. Emily wasn't sure what to say. Her gut told her this was important, but the doubt inside her lingered. Could she really step up to this challenge? Could she really become a part of something that big? She had only ever dreamed of a life like this, but now that it was within her reach, she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. But I don't understand, Emily continued. What is this project? What exactly do you want me to do? Mr. Bennett stood up and walked to the window, his back to her. I can't explain everything yet, but I'll tell you this. What we're doing here could change the world. We're working on a new initiative that will not only revolutionize the industry, but also help people in ways that no one has ever done before. It's about creating a future where everyone has access to the opportunities they deserve. Emily was stunned. She had worked in the service industry for so long, barely scraping by, and now she was being asked to be part of something that could change the future? It felt surreal. She looked at Mr. Bennett, who was now gazing out over the city below, lost in thought. How do you expect me to help with something like that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He turned to face her, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. Because you understand. You understand what it means to struggle. You know what it's like to fight for a better life. That's why I chose you. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. She had no idea what he was really asking, but there was something about the way he spoke that made her believe in him. He wasn't asking for her to have all the answers. He was asking for her to bring something real, something grounded. And maybe, just maybe, that was all it took to make a difference. Over the next few weeks, Emily worked closely with Mr. Bennett on the project he had mentioned. She still didn't know all the details, but her role was becoming clearer. It wasn't just about the business side of things. It was about understanding people, seeing their needs, and finding ways to make their lives better. Emily had spent years feeling invisible, like her struggles didn't matter. But now, for the first time, she felt like she had a purpose. The work was hard, but rewarding. Every day she learned something new, and every day she felt more and more like she was becoming a part of something important. And as the days went by, she began to realize something else. Her connection with Mr. Bennett was growing deeper. It wasn't just about work anymore. There was a bond forming between them, something unspoken but undeniable. She found herself thinking about him more than she should. He had always been kind to her, but now there was a certain warmth in his presence that she couldn't ignore. One evening, as they were wrapping up a long day at the office, Mr. Bennett turned to her with an intensity in his eyes. Emily, I need to tell you something, he said, his voice serious. She looked at him, curious. What is it? This project, it's not just about business. It's about making a real difference. And I believe that you're the person who can make it happen. Emily felt a rush of emotion, her heart beating faster. She wasn't sure where this was going, but for the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged somewhere. She wasn't just a struggling girl anymore. She was part of something bigger, something that had the potential to change everything. As Mr. Bennett stood there, looking at her with those piercing blue eyes, she realized something else. She was starting to care about him. But she wasn't ready to admit it, not yet. She had to focus on the work, on the future, and on proving that she could be more than just the girl who had once struggled to survive. As the days passed, Emily threw herself into the project with everything she had. But no matter how hard she tried to stay focused, she couldn't shake the growing feelings she had for Mr. Bennett. It was a confusing, overwhelming mix of admiration, respect, and something deeper that she wasn't ready to name. But she couldn't deny it. She was beginning to fall for him, and the more she tried to ignore it, the harder it became. As the weeks passed, Emily became more and more immersed in the project Mr. Bennett had trusted her with. She found herself spending late nights at the office, brainstorming ideas, and working closely with the team to develop strategies that could potentially change the landscape of the industry. But amidst all the work in progress, she couldn't ignore the growing feelings she had for him. Mr. Bennett wasn't just her boss anymore. He had become someone she admired deeply, someone who had made her believe that she could achieve things she had only dreamed of before. But the closer they grew, the more conflicted Emily became. Was this just professional admiration, or was there something more? She tried to push the thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. But it wasn't easy. Every time Mr. Bennett walked into the room, every time their eyes met across a crowded conference table, she felt her heart race. She knew she had to keep her focus, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was happening between them. One evening, as Emily worked late into the night, she received a message from Mr. Bennett. It was simple, but it made her heart skip a beat. "Would you like to join me for dinner? I'd like to talk about something important." She stared at the message for a moment, her mind racing. Dinner? Alone with him? She wasn't sure if she was ready for that kind of intimacy, but something told her this was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. She quickly replied, "I'd love to." The restaurant Mr. Bennett chose was a quiet, upscale place with dim lighting and soft music playing in the background. As they sat down at a secluded table, Emily couldn't help but feel a little nervous. This wasn't just a business meeting. There was a certain tension in the air, something that made her feel both excited and anxious. Mr. Bennett was already seated, looking as composed as ever. He smiled as she sat down. "Thank you for joining me," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "There's something I've been meaning to talk to you about." Emily's heart skipped a beat. What was this about? Was it about the project, or was there something more? "You've been doing incredible work, Emily," he continued, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "I've been watching your progress, and I'm impressed with how you've handled everything so far. But there's something else I want to talk to you about. Something personal." Emily felt her breath catch in her throat. Personal? She wasn't sure she was ready for that conversation, but at the same time, she couldn't back away now. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft. Mr. Bennett leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. "I've been meaning to ask you this for a while, but I wanted to wait until the right moment. Emily, I think you're capable of much more than you realize. Not just with the project, but in your personal life as well. You've proven time and time again that you can handle anything that comes your way." Emily blinked, unsure of what he was getting at. "I'm not sure I understand," she said slowly. "What are you trying to say?" Mr. Bennett smiled, but it wasn't his usual confident smile. There was something vulnerable about it. "I'm saying that I've been thinking about you a lot, Emily. Not just as an employee, but as someone I care about. And I believe that you and I could accomplish even more together, not just professionally, but personally." Emily's heart raced, her mind spinning. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? Could it be possible? Was there more between them than just work? She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she just stared at him, her emotions a whirlwind. "I know this is unexpected," he said, his voice gentle. "And I understand if you need time to think about it. But I wanted to be honest with you. I can't ignore what I'm feeling anymore." Emily felt her pulse quicken. Was this really happening? Was this the moment where everything changed? She had never imagined herself in a situation like this, especially not with someone like Mr. Bennett. But here she was, at a crossroads, wondering what path she should take. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Mr. Bennett reached across the table and took her hand in his. His touch was warm, reassuring. "You don't have to say anything right now," he said softly. "Take your time. But just know that I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, Emily just sat there, the weight of his words sinking in. This wasn't just a business proposition anymore. It was about trust, vulnerability, and the possibility of something more. She had never thought she'd be in a position like this, but now that she wasn't sure if she was ready to take the next step. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur, the conversation flowing easily, but Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change forever. When they finally stood up to leave, Mr. Bennett's security team was waiting outside, as always. But this time, as Emily walked beside him, she realized something. This wasn't just a job. It wasn't just about the project. It was about her future, and the choices she was about to make. And no matter what she decided, she knew that her life would never be the same. The days following that dinner with Mr. Bennett felt like a whirlwind for Emily. The tension between them had shifted, but she wasn't sure if it was something she was ready to confront. Work was still intense, and she focused on that, diving into projects and meetings, determined not to let the growing feelings between them interfere. But every time she saw him across the room, every time their eyes met for a brief second, her heart would race. She was caught in a tug-of-war between her professional ambitions and the budding emotions she was feeling. One afternoon, Mr. Bennett called her into his office, and Emily's stomach fluttered with a mix of anxiety and curiosity. The door to his office closed behind her, and she stood there for a moment, not sure if she was stepping into another business meeting or something more personal. Mr. Bennett sat at his desk, looking over a set of documents, but his eyes lifted when he saw her. "Emily, please, have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair in front of him. Emily took a deep breath and sat down, trying to compose herself. The silence that followed felt heavy. "How are things going?" Mr. Bennett asked after a moment, his voice smooth, but with an undercurrent of concern. "Everything is great," Emily replied, her voice betraying her nervousness. "I'm learning a lot, and the project is coming together. I appreciate the opportunity." Mr. Bennett nodded, then leaned back in his chair, his fingers lightly tapping on the desk. "I'm glad to hear that. But there's something I've been thinking about. I need to make sure that you're not just doing this for the company. I need to know that you're here for the right reasons." Emily furrowed her brow, her nerves tightening. What was he trying to say? "What do you mean?" she asked. Mr. Bennett looked at her, his gaze steady. "I want you to know that this is more than just a job for me. You're more than just an employee. I don't want you to feel like you're obligated to stay or to work just because of the opportunity I've given you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "Mr. Bennett, I'm here because I want to be. I've worked hard to get to this point, and I'm not going to let anything distract me from my goals. But I also value what you've offered me. This isn't just about business. It's about making a real difference." Mr. Bennett leaned forward slightly, his eyes softening. "I'm glad to hear that. I just want to make sure you're not feeling pressured into anything. You've proven yourself, Emily, and I respect you, more than you know." His words hit her harder than she expected. There was something genuine in his tone, something that made her believe in him, despite all the uncertainty she felt. "I'm not sure what this means for us," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I need you to know that I'm not just here for the job. I'm here because I believe in the work we're doing. And because I trust you." Mr. Bennett stood up from his desk, walking around to stand beside her. He didn't say anything at first, but the weight of his presence was enough to make her heart race. "You don't have to have all the answers right now, Emily," he said softly. "We'll figure this out together. I just want you to know that whatever happens, I'm here for you. As a boss, as a colleague, and as someone who cares." His words hung in the air between them, and Emily felt something shift inside her. She wasn't sure what this meant, but it felt like a turning point. They had crossed a line, and the future was now uncertain. But in that moment, Emily realized something important. She had been afraid of what might happen if she let herself get close to him. But now she understood that the true risk was living a life of regret. Regret for not taking the chance, for not allowing herself to embrace something more. Later that week, Emily was asked to attend a company gala, a high-profile event that was one of the most anticipated gatherings of the year. It was an opportunity for Carter Enterprises to showcase its successes, and Emily's team had been working hard to prepare. As she stood in front of the mirror in her modest apartment, carefully adjusting her dress, she couldn't help but feel a wave of self-doubt. She wasn't used to these kinds of events, and she certainly wasn't used to being in the spotlight. But she had worked hard to get to this point, and she wasn't going to let her nerves hold her back. The evening of the gala arrived, and Emily stepped into the grand ballroom of a luxurious hotel. The glittering chandeliers, the elegant decor, it was all overwhelming, yet exhilarating. She found herself at the edge of the crowd, watching as executives mingled, and Mr. Bennet stood at the center, greeting guests with his usual poise. As Emily looked around, she suddenly felt a little out of place. This world, this level of success, was something she had never imagined she would be part of. But then her eyes met Mr. Bennet's across the room, and for a moment, everything else faded away. He smiled at her, a reassuring, warm smile that made her feel like she belonged here. As the night went on, Emily found herself drawn into conversations with colleagues, her confidence growing as she realized that she had earned her place here. But there was something else that kept tugging at her, the way Mr. Bennet looked at her, the way he seemed to be watching over her without saying a word. Finally, as the evening drew to a close, Emily found herself standing beside him, her heart beating faster than she cared to admit. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said, his voice low and sincere. "You've made a real impression, Emily." She looked up at him, unsure of what to say. But then, in that moment, she realized something. This wasn't just about business anymore. It was about something deeper, something that could change everything. And for the first time, Emily allowed herself to imagine what that might look like. The days following that dinner with Mr. Bennet felt like a whirlwind for Emily. The tension between them had shifted, but she wasn't sure if it was something she was ready to confront. Work was still intense, and she focused on that, diving into projects and meetings, determined not to let the growing feelings between them interfere. But every time she saw him across the room, every time their eyes met for a brief second, her heart would race. She was caught in a tug-of-war between her professional ambitions and the budding emotions she was feeling. One afternoon, Mr. Bennet called her into his office, and Emily's stomach fluttered with a mix of anxiety and curiosity. The door to his office closed behind her, and she stood there for a moment, not sure if she was stepping into another business meeting or something more personal. Mr. Bennet sat at his desk, looking over a set of documents, but his eyes lifted when he saw her. "Emily, please have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair in front of him. Emily took a deep breath and sat down, trying to compose herself. The silence that followed felt heavy. "How are things going?" Mr. Bennet asked after a moment, his voice smooth, but with an undercurrent of concern. "Everything is great," Emily replied, her voice betraying her nervousness. "I'm learning a lot, and the project is coming together. I appreciate the opportunity." Mr. Bennet nodded, then leaned back in his chair, his fingers lightly tapping on the desk. "I'm glad to hear that. But there's something I've been thinking about. I need to make sure that you're not just doing this for the company. I need to know that you're here for the right reasons." Emily furrowed her brow, her nerves tightening. What was he trying to say? "What do you mean?" she asked. Mr. Bennet looked at her, his gaze steady. "I want you to know that this is more than just a job for me. You're more than just an employee. I don't want you to feel like you're obligated to stay or to work just because of the opportunity I've given you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "Mr. Bennet, I'm here because I want to be. I've worked hard to get to this point, and I'm not going to let anything distract me from my goals. But I also value what you've offered me. This isn't just about business. It's about making a real difference." Mr. Bennet leaned forward slightly, his eyes softening. "I'm glad to hear that. I just want to make sure you're not feeling pressured into anything. You've proven yourself, Emily, and I respect you, more than you know." His words hit her harder than she expected. There was something genuine in his tone, something that made her believe in him, despite all the uncertainty she felt. "I'm not sure what this means for us," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I need you to know that I'm not just here for the job. I'm here because I believe in the work we're doing, and because I trust you." Mr. Bennet stood up from his desk, walking around to stand beside her. He didn't say anything at first, but the weight of his presence was enough to make her heart race. "You don't have to have all the answers right now, Emily," he said softly. "We'll figure this out together. I just want you to know that whatever happens, I'm here for you, as a boss, as a colleague, and as someone who cares." His words hung in the air between them, and Emily felt something shift inside her. She wasn't sure what this meant, but it felt like a turning point. They had crossed a line, and the future was now uncertain. But in that moment, Emily realized something important. She had been afraid of what might happen if she let herself get close to him. But now she understood that the true risk was living a life of regret. Regret for not taking the chance, for not allowing herself to embrace something more. Later that week, Emily was asked to attend a company gala, a high-profile event that was one of the most anticipated gatherings of the year. It was an opportunity for Carter Enterprises to showcase its successes, and Emily's team had been working hard to prepare. As she stood in front of the mirror in her modest apartment, carefully adjusting her dress, she couldn't help but feel a wave of self-doubt. She wasn't used to these kinds of events, and she certainly wasn't used to being in the spotlight. But she had worked hard to get to this point, and she wasn't going to let her nerves hold her back. The evening of the gala arrived, and Emily stepped into the grand ballroom of a luxurious hotel. The glittering chandeliers, the elegant decor, it was all overwhelming, yet exhilarating. She found herself at the edge of the crowd, watching as executives mingled, and Mr. Bennet stood at the center, greeting guests with his usual poise. As Emily looked around, she suddenly felt a little out of place. This world, this level of success, was something she had never imagined she would be part of. But then her eyes met Mr. Bennet's across the room, and for a moment, everything else faded away. He smiled at her, a reassuring, warm smile that made her feel like she belonged here. As the night went on, Emily found herself drawn into conversations with colleagues, her confidence growing as she realized that she had earned her place here. But there was something else that kept tugging at her, the way Mr. Bennet looked at her, the way he seemed to be watching over her without saying a word. Finally, as the evening drew to a close, Emily found herself standing beside him, her heart beating faster than she cared to admit. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said, his voice low and sincere. "You've made a real impression, Emily." She looked up at him, unsure of what to say. But then, in that moment, she realized something. This wasn't just about business anymore. It was about something deeper, something that could change everything. And for the first time, Emily allowed herself to imagine what that might look like. As Emily stood in front of the glass doors of Carter Enterprises the next morning, she couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed in such a short time. Just a few months ago, she had been struggling to make ends meet, barely scraping by with a job at a local diner. Now, she was walking into one of the most powerful companies in the city, with the chance to reshape her future. But with this new beginning came a sense of pressure she had never felt before. The weight of her responsibilities felt heavier every day, but so did the allure of success. She had never imagined her life would take such a turn, but now that she was here, she couldn't go back. She entered the building and took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The elevator ride up to the top floor was quiet, but inside, Emily's heart raced. She had been given so much in such a short time, and though she was grateful, a part of her was terrified of messing it all up. When the doors opened, she was greeted by Claire, her mentor, who smiled warmly at her. "Good morning, Emily," she said. "Ready for today?" Emily nodded, trying to muster a smile. "I think so." Claire led her down the hallway to a meeting room where Mr. Bennet was already waiting. He stood as they entered, his usual confident demeanor in place. "Good morning, Emily," he said, his eyes catching hers in a way that made her pulse quicken. "It's good to see you." As Emily sat down at the table, she couldn't help but feel a strange mix of admiration and uncertainty. The man in front of her was more than just a CEO, he had become someone important to her. But what did that really mean? Was it simply professional respect, or something deeper? She couldn't yet decide. Mr. Bennet spoke again, breaking her thoughts. "Today, we're moving forward with the next phase of the project. I want you to take the lead on the next step." Emily's stomach twisted. "The lead? Are you sure I'm ready for that?" Mr. Bennet leaned forward slightly, his gaze unwavering. "You've proven yourself more than capable. I have no doubt that you're ready for this. I'm giving you the opportunity to lead the team in the next big presentation. You've earned it." Emily's mind raced. She had dreamed of opportunities like this, but now that it was in front of her, she couldn't help but feel a surge of fear. She had never been in charge before, but at the same time, she felt a spark of excitement. She had to do this. She couldn't let fear hold her back. "I won't let you down," she said, her voice steady. "I'll make sure everything is ready for the presentation." Mr. Bennet smiled. "I know you will. And remember, you're not alone in this. You have the support of the team, and of me. You're ready for this." As the meeting continued, Emily focused on the task ahead. She was determined to make the most of this opportunity. But even as she felt the adrenaline of taking on a new challenge, she couldn't ignore the weight of the unspoken bond that had developed between her and Mr. Bennet. She had been trying to keep her personal feelings at bay, but with each passing day, it was becoming more difficult. She couldn't help but wonder if he felt the same way. That evening, after the meeting, Emily stayed late to work on the presentation. She was determined to get everything right, to prove to herself and to Mr. Bennet that she deserved this chance. As the hours passed, she found herself lost in her work, her mind consumed by the details of the presentation. Just as she was wrapping up, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mr. Bennet. "I know it's late, but I wanted to check in. How are things going?" She stared at the message for a moment, her heart racing. Was he checking in on her as a mentor, or was there something more? She hesitated before typing her reply. "Everything is coming together. I'm almost done. Thank you for believing in me." A few moments later, his reply came through. "I'm proud of you, Emily. You've already proven yourself." Her heart fluttered at his words. "Thank you," she typed, then paused. She wasn't sure what to say next. Something in her wanted to ask him about the connection between them, about the feelings that had been building up over the past few months. But she couldn't bring herself to say it. Instead, she settled for a simple, "I appreciate your support." The reply was almost immediate. "You've earned it." As she read his message, Emily felt a mix of emotions. She had worked so hard to get to this point, but now she was realizing that the journey ahead wasn't just about proving her worth professionally. It was about confronting her own feelings, about the complex relationship that had developed between her and Mr. Bennet. And though she didn't know what the future held, she couldn't help but feel that whatever happened next, she was ready. She had a purpose now, a future to build, and she wasn't going to let anything stop her. The next day, she presented the project to the team. Her nerves were there, but she pushed through them, delivering the presentation with confidence and precision. As the meeting concluded, Mr. Bennet gave her a nod of approval. "Excellent work, Emily," he said. "I knew you had it in you." And for the first time, Emily believed it too. As the days passed, Emily continued to excel at Carter Enterprises. Her professional growth was undeniable, and she quickly became an integral part of the team. The project she had led was a success, and the confidence that Mr. Bennet had shown in her continued to fuel her own belief in her abilities. But no matter how much she immersed herself in her work, she couldn't ignore the pull of her growing feelings for him. Their connection had shifted, and it wasn't just about business anymore. It was personal, and Emily was starting to wonder if he felt the same way. One evening, as the office slowly emptied, Emily sat at her desk, wrapping up the last of her work. She could hear the soft hum of the city outside the windows, the quiet buzz of the fluorescent lights above her. She hadn't noticed how late it had gotten until her phone buzzed with a message from Mr. Bennet. "I need to speak with you in my office when you're done." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had been trying to keep a professional distance, but the truth was, she had been waiting for a moment like this. She took a deep breath, setting her phone down, and stood up to make her way to his office. As she approached, she saw him standing by the window, just as he had been the first time they met. The city lights reflected in his eyes, but this time, his expression was more serious than she had ever seen it. "Emily," he said, his voice soft but filled with intent. "I've been thinking about everything, about the work, about how far you've come, and about us." Her heart pounded in her chest. "Us?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Bennet turned around to face her, his expression unreadable. "Yes," he said. "There's something I need to be honest about. I've been holding back for a while now, but I can't keep pretending that this is just about work anymore." Emily's breath caught in her throat. Was he about to say what she thought he was going to say? She had tried to ignore it, but the attraction, the connection, she had felt it too. "I've always been professional," he continued. "But I think we both know there's more to this than just business." He took a step closer to her, his eyes locking with hers. "Emily, I care about you. I have for some time now." Emily's heart raced, her mind whirling with a mix of excitement and fear. Was this really happening? She started, but the words didn't come. She didn't know what to say. She had been waiting for this moment, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure if she was ready to take that leap. Mr. Bennet smiled gently, sensing her hesitation. "I understand if this is unexpected. I know you've worked so hard to get where you are, and I don't want to complicate that. But I also know that I don't want to leave things unsaid." Emily swallowed hard, her mind racing. She had always prided herself on being strong, on being able to handle anything that came her way. But this was different. This wasn't just about a career or a job. It was about her heart. And for the first time, she realized that her heart was telling her to take a chance. I don't know what this means, she said, her voice trembling slightly. But I do know that I care about you too. A relieved smile spread across Mr. Bennett's face. You don't have to know everything right now, Emily. I'm not asking you to make any decisions tonight. I just wanted you to know where I stand. Emily's chest tightened as she took in his words. This was everything she had been hoping for, and yet, there was still a part of her that was afraid of what it could mean. So what happens now? She asked, her voice soft. Mr. Bennett stepped closer, his hand reaching out to gently touch hers. We take it one step at a time, he said, his voice calm and reassuring. We focus on the work, on the future, but we also allow ourselves to explore this. Whatever this is between us. Emily nodded, feeling a weight lift off her shoulders. It wasn't going to be easy, but she was ready to take that leap. She had worked hard to get where she was, and now, for the first time, she felt like she was in control of her own destiny. They stood there for a moment, the quiet of the office surrounding them, before Mr. Bennett broke the silence with a soft chuckle. Well, I think that's enough emotional honesty for one night, he said with a grin. We should probably get some sleep. Tomorrow is another big day. Emily laughed softly, her nerves finally settling. You're right, she said, a smile tugging at her lips. Tomorrow is another big day. As she walked out of his office, Emily felt a sense of peace that she hadn't experienced in a long time. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time, she knew that she wasn't alone. There was someone who saw her, believed in her, and cared about her. And that was enough for now. The future was wide open, and Emily was ready to step into it, whatever it might bring.